The more I think about it, the more I'm kind of wondering why this deck doesn't have Inquisition instead of Duress. I guess Duress is better against Tron, somewhat against the Mirror because you can take Twin, but you could also take their Exarch with Inquisition. That's what you get for copy pasting a list, just to try. Because I mean, this deck did wreck me last week playing the company deck. It did not feel very good at all. But that also may just be list specific. There's like a lot of really weird things in Modern with these control decks where like you just play against someone and they're like, yeah, so like 3 electrolyzes, nice deck, and you're like, great, I was playing Affinity, you got me, and then like the next week they're like, yeah, I got 3 electrolyzes, and you're like, my deck doesn't have creatures in it, so I don't really know what you're trying to do here. But this hand's a pretty obvious keep. I like leading on untapped Steam Vents. Actually, I don't even like that. I was thinking like untapped Steam Vents into Visions, but I like tap Steam Vents, pass Visions on my second turn or Bolt on my second turn. Just making a decision off of actual information seems great. As opposed to, just gunning whatever cantrip. It's not like we're... So the cantrips in these kind of decks are very much reactive cards. It's not like the combo decks where you just gun the cantrip immediately. My opponent mulled Flooded Strand. I guess you can't really read into fetches in this format that much. So my opponent's some kind of combo. No one plays sleight of hand unless they're combo. So I'd like to find a twin or interaction. I don't think either of those really help me, so I'm going to keep a Serum Visions, I think. Play a tap land. Guessing my opponent's like Ad Nauseam or something really weird. Flooded Strand Basic Island doesn't immediately ring any bells. Guess Storm could be a thing. Actually, maybe I was supposed to keep Serum Visions and the land so I could get to Cryptic, guaranteed. Just like Exarch, untap. Maybe that's what I was supposed to do. I do like upkeep tapping my opponent's Steam Vents with the Exarch here, though. Yeah, I think I was supposed to keep the mountain too. It's kind of like this hand probably doesn't need more land with the other visions, but being able to definitely hit my 4th land on time is pretty nice. I don't want to know what my opponent did. One top, one bottom. That's fine. Hopefully this isn't an Ascension, because that would kind of be the worst for me right here. Yeah, that's certainly not the worst. That's the worst. That was relatively convenient. I think I'm just supposed to pass here. And then at some critical juncture, counter plus bounce the Ascension. That's fine. Maybe even like EOT bounce draw the Ascension. Card did not do anything. The Ascension's definitely going back to hand this turn. And maybe I'm supposed to wait until there's like the second trigger on the stack to bounce it. The problem being I'm not really getting anywhere with... I can EOT Bolt and get closer to a Tasigur here. Supposed to counterbounce? And this Cryptic gets pretty bad if... I think I'm supposed to counterbounce on the basis that the Cryptic gets really, really bad if I don't keep those Ascensions off the board. I don't think I'm going to need a second black. Fetching allows my opponent to short storm a little better, but I'm not too scared of that. I don't want either of those. That's like... Yeah, that was the best possible draw, basically. And I would always take another one of that card in this matchup. I just slam the Tasigur, leaving up mana for anything, really. I get to either bolt... I leave up the mana because of the option, I guess, but I don't think... I guess if my opponent plays an Electromancer, I have to bolt it. Because I just get Ascensioned afterwards then. Which is really kind of crappy. I think if I stop the Electromancer here, the most my opponent can do is really add 7 to the mana pool, which might actually be enough. I think I just have to assume that that wouldn't be enough, though. Hooray! There's another Ascension. This is problematic. I'm going to keep calling this Ascendancy because of Jeskai Ascendancy and then messing everything up. That's fine. It's also fine. I think I shouldn't have EOT bolted. That was a mistake. I was thinking I like EOT bolt so I can Tasigur and snare next turn without having to bolt. But like the thing is, I'd rather Tasigur back the snare or whatever, anyways. The fact that I hit both snares this game is real nice. Yeah, this is like one of the matchups that... Spell Snare is obviously a card that has a huge variability of how good it is or isn't. But this is definitely one of the matchups where it is absolutely at its best. Not countering the first ritual because I want to get my opponent to a mana choke point, I think, before I counter anything. And with that much extra mana, I don't think I'm really getting anywhere. I think this is a mana choke point, though. Because it puts my opponent at 4 mana remaining, which is not enough to cast Past in Flames. And flash something back. It's also the second ritual. Okay. I didn't even realize my opponent had cast Gitaxian Probe at some point this game. Yeah, so the first one leaves my... Like, the thing about the first one is if my opponent has a second ritual, the counter does nothing. So that wasn't really where I wanted to go. These cards are good because they kill things that matter. These cards are very bad because they don't. Don't like Electrolyze. I don't like Kolagon's command here. I'm going to board out some number of bolts. I still like a couple. The rest of my cards are just really good in this matchup. Maybe I board out like an Exarch or Twin. Leave him bolts. The card doesn't do anything. I guess maybe I want like 3 bolts for my opponent's stuff. Board out like an Exarch over a Pestermite because I'm more afraid of, or I'd rather have the beatdown creature than care about getting bolted. Tasigur seems great because my opponent can't just outlast it. Making opponents discard card doesn't really matter because Storm just tends to have a bunch of cards in hand until they do something anyways. Yeah, we'll try this. Riding Volley's worse than Bolt because it can't go to the face. Looks fine. Could, in theory, lose to just getting turn 2 got by Ascendancy. I guess that even if the Ascendancy hits, I have like a decent plan of going like remand your spell and to negate your spell and snapcaster your spell to keep my opponent off of pulling through cards over the course of the game. I think I want to lead on a land that fetches. What's the worst land? I think I'm less likely to fetch a basic mountain this game because I already have a bunch of red sources. But I'm leading on a fetch land over the guaranteed tap land here because I don't think my life total matters so much as forcing my opponent to think about whether I have Spell Snare or not. New Negate's actually pretty good. Just in terms of art. Not looking forward to new remand art. Actually, new remand art's probably not as bad as I'm giving it credit for. Yep. That's going to resolve. Very likely to lose this game. Right on time, buddy. Play the crappy fetch. That was probably wrong. Yeah, that's not remotely close to happening. I'm just going to throw a remand at that because that's... I can get a mountain here, actually, right? I have... That's fine. But this is a scenario where I actually get somewhere out of that remand. 3 cards in graveyard. You can get to 4. Leave up Spell Snare. I don't actually mind that. Just kind of get the Tasigur on board as early as possible. Just try to race my opponent. Which is kind of not the best, but we'll see. By the looks of it, my opponent's hand is pretty clunked up, so I don't mind this. It's at least a defense grid. They didn't play a 1-mana cantrip last turn. Like, that probe probably was just off the top. I can't imagine saving it here. Especially if you're, like, missing a cantrip for a turn. So my opponent's hand is probably, like, at least another Ascendancy or Electromancer. Probably like another land, a defense grid, and some rituals. And I really just have to get to the point where I can negate. Yeah, no. Absolutely not. If there's like another defense grid, I don't really care. Because that means my opponent's hand's really bad. I mean, I guess I kind of care in the sense that, oh, Echoing Truth. That's weird. My opponent brought in Echoing Truth. I think I play Sulphur Falls under the assumption that I leave up Negate here this way. With the Exarch, that is. Can't really play Tassiger quite just yet. I think, let's see, it's like 2 turns away from hitting a fetch and doing it. That's a pretty good draw. Don't want Bolt. Do want to counterspell. Because again, it looks like my opponent is quite light on cantrips, which means that if I just counter every cantrip my opponent plays, they're going to be hard pressed to actually do anything this game. Because it's hard for them to get to the point where they're casting multiple name spells for Pyromancer. Like, I guess the only other thing I should be digging for is potentially a Cryptic. It's possible the right play next turn is snap the Serum Visions. Kind of nice that this play signals a Cryptic. Yeah, basically just have to counter every single cantrip my opponent could ever cast. Because I'm drawing Dispel next turn, so the right play is to take 2 again if I'm going to rebuy. Go to 13, get back, or rebuy Serum Visions first, I guess. But then I can pay life. The rebuying Serum Visions in case I draw a better land than Blood Crypt and don't have to take damage. Well, I drew a better land than Blood Crypt. I definitely want that Duress. Let's see, I get to 2. I'm not quite there. My opponent has to cast something here into my handful of counter magic in order for me to full-on get there. That actually resolves. I don't think that really does anything. I think I'm just supposed to counter that on principle, especially because Dispel's not really countering much else. I'm also going to counter that because I think this sets up a Tassiger very well. So I get to lead on Duress is the first thing I'm going to do just to make sure what's going on. Oh, wow, that's a hand. I guess I'm just supposed to take Grape Shot, leave my opponent with 2 terrible Past in Flames. Attack with both creatures. I guess I actually might be dead next turn. Yeah, I'm maybe. Oh, I can negate though. So I think I have to negate the first Past in Flames. I'm thinking maybe I don't want to leave that many cards. I actually, if I want to do anything, it's leave negate in my graveyard. So let's think about high pay first. So Duress is definitely getting exiled. Dispel's getting exiled. Spellsnar's getting exiled. I'm not going to activate Tassiger next turn. I'm going to be casting Negate on a Past in Flames here. So I think I just pay and leave Negate in graveyard. I guess, no, that's absolutely wrong because if I'm going to cast a Negate, I just have Negate in graveyard anyways. And my opponent, in theory, could mess this up and not just go for it. One time, Explosives for 2. Oh. Also not that. That's the actual worst thing for my opponent to have drawn. I'm just dead, aren't I, right? Because I get Past in Flames. I mean, I guess I just make my opponent go through the motions. But now that Ascension's active, I should just be 1,000% dead. Yeah, it had to not be exactly Gitaxian Probe. Oh. Okay. Or my opponent could not make the correct play. So what my opponent was supposed to do was cast Past in Flames. I can't counter either copy. At that point, then my opponent can Desperate Ritual. I can't counter one of the copies. They get mana. They can Ritual again. So that would be Past in Flames, Probe, Ritual, Ritual, Probe, Probe. Grape Shot alone is 8. It seems really easy for me to have died from that point. Oh, what? Come on. That box cannot be correct. Well, definitely not getting back engineered explosives. Think I'm just supposed to Tassiger again. Oh, wow. Those are some cards. I don't think they matter. I think I should be dead here. Again, it's possible my opponent does not understand what's going on, but should be dead. That was like the exact wrong order to hit any of those cards. Man. I guess if you switch the Snapcaster and the Remand, it doesn't matter. But besides those 2 slots, I think you could, for those 5 cards, find basically, I guess there's a lot of combinations that it could have been. It was not the right one. It's like if I hit twin explosives off the EOT Tassiger, I easily win by explosiving for 2. if I hit... I'm just doing a weird... I'm so dead. Oh my gosh, yeah. Absolutely the deadest. But I'm just doing this just to, like, have some combination fun. Just, like, figure out what things I could have done to... Or what things could have happened in a different order on that turn to have won the game, because there's literally nothing else for me to do with my mental energy at this point. I'm just going to, turn off the video for a minute and you can come back to me losing. Turning this back on to say I'm pretty sure I messed up last turn and I was supposed to leave up all of my mana and have negate plus remand up so I could beat the first Past in Flames. Though I guess that doesn't really get me anywhere because I don't have enough mana to also Tassigr or attempt there. I'm also dead to the top deck Manamorphose by... actually I'm not. Oh wow, yeah, I messed this game up by a lot. I was actually supposed to just pass the turn. And then if my opponent goes for Past in Flames, I remand the copy, negate it. I would have actually drawn Splinter Twin and killed my opponent. Wow, I punted. That's impressive. That was really bad. I was just assuming I was dead and I just didn't even think about it. And we're back to not bored at all. That took my opponent surprisingly little time to kill me. I might be undervaluing how much setting up the twin combo does, but I think all these other cards are just too good and it's too easy just to beat my opponent to death. Yeah, I should not have lost that game. Getting appropriately punished. I did win the last time I mulled the 4 in Modern, so I'll give this that. I think if I draw Remand, that's the best possible card for me. Remand? Is that the best? Wouldn't mind EE for 2 as well, but I think Remand gives me a lot of velocity that I need to win this game. Scalding Tarn, not very good, but it might do. Okay. Also, am I just getting emptied for 6, 8? Please just let me draw it one time. I mean, it's 100% right for my opponent to have done this. Jeez, empty for 10? I actually don't fetch here because I can throw the Snapcaster under the bus and live an additional turn. Right? I can wait a turn on doing the Snapcaster Mage. I mean, I drew the Exarch, so it doesn't matter too much. I'm supposed to tap a Goblin on beginning of combat, I think. Just conserve life totals here. Also play around like a random nonsense like Echoing Truth spell. Conserving life total also matters versus Grape Shot, so yeah. Losing to Storm as Twin feels really bad. Definitely messed up game 2. So you're saying there's a chance. Still not dead. So I can go to 2, which is probably dead, but we'll see. This block, I put the Exarch on the 2/2. I think I just throw this Remand at my opponent's spell to get through to potentially hitting an explosives. Or a twin, I guess, is the other card I could hit. Dead to a grape shot. Wow, I guess I could have hit twin. I didn't have the land, did I? Or did I draw a remand? I think I had the land. I think that's pretty insane that I could have just hit twin and won there. In case you haven't noticed, I haven't played a lot with these newfangled twin decks that play things like interaction, where like the other twin deck you always just like know you have it or you have to top deck it, and this deck is just kind of weird that like you're playing Magic and then all of a sudden you win. Also, this is the first time I noticed Deceiver Exarch is holding his staff with his brain. Actually, in retrospect, I'm not even sure this is a he. I'm pretty sure it's pretty non-gendered. I don't really think Phyrexians, they kind of just spawn. I guess if you go back in the lore, you have like Gix was definitely male. Xantid was self-identifying as female, I think. Or Xantia, not Xantid. That's Xantid Swarm. Put 2 cards on the bottom, so I think it's right to Serum Visions first. Anyways, I read a lot of those old books. I'm dead. Well then. Yeah, definitely messed up game 2. Wow.